your friends.
Civil War, Civil War.
Oh, there's hate all around. I don't care about your fucking politics. I don't want to hear about your politics. Oh, well, he
I
said
want to hear about your
boo.
politics.
Oh, and she said hooray. Now we're human
Hooray.
beings right here.
Are
Human
we ready to go?
beings. We're here
Are we?
together. Come
Are
on.
you sure?
Oh yeah, I like that idea. Yeah. What are the humans, and
Right?
am I one of them?
Am I one of them?
Am I one of them? Like a
Could it
baby,
be?
like a baby. Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
a baby.
Rock me, baby, like a breaking ball. Like a something.
Like a baby. I was strong as I could be. Like a baby. I was eating babies today.
Yikes. Well, probably nutritious, but
Right?
it's not.
Probably very nutritious.
Yeah, like sardines, like because you can eat, like eating whole sardines is apparently amazing for you because you get all the little tiny bones, you get all their internal organs, their brain, everything. You know what I'm saying? You're getting the
Huh.
whole thing, you know? So it's like, wow, eat
didn't know
sardines,
that.
people. Although
interesting.
I'm not super into sardines, so you know.
Yeah, I know. They've always grossed me out.
All that really means is we're not hungry enough. Let me tell you something. Okay,
All right.
bro. I used to watch. There's a great show called Alone, and they just drop people off, and they'd see who could survive the longest. You know.
I've heard that. I've heard about that.
Oh, it's an excellent show. What I really loved
yeah?
is that the super tough, like I'm like a survival champion. Like, well, those guys are gone in like 3 days. You know, all the people that are like too cool for school and are like, oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna win this. Like their confidence becomes their downfall. What's that famous term for that? Anyway,
what?
Anyway, yeah, there's like points where they're like, this rat tail is delicious. Like I have a little bit of this rat tail stew left over from last night. I'm gonna chew on the rat tail now. And they're like,
You know, I heard about some challenge that I really wanted to look into. It's like some place in like Norway that where supposedly was like the birthplace of Santa Claus or whatever, some shit like that. And it's basically like freezing there. It's just like completely desolate in like just like freezing cold snow. And they have some sort of kind of semi-modern like shack there with like glass ceilings and everything. And it's like self-heating and everything, like a wood-burning fire, some shit like that. And basically, if you can stay there with no contact with the outside world, like you can't, there's like no contact with the outside world or like through phone or computer or anything. If you can stay there for 100 days, you get $6 million.
that's insane.
I know. I'm like, I want to try that.
Hold on, was it Norway alone for 100 days, 6 million challenge? That's not how you spell challenge, but I'm just rolling with it.
It was saying something like, you know, most people that try it.
So it's 100 days in the Arctic to win 1 million over 6 seasons. No one has ever lasted this long. Oh, wait, here's the 6 million hut challenge. Okay. It sounds like it may not exist. There is
I was wondering if it was a scam.
Yeah, there is the game though. There was the, which I guess I closed that window, but I'm going back.
Mhm.
Um,
The Arctic one.
yeah, there's 6 million. Yeah, there's like it's like there's a bunch of them. There's one that's like a tree house. There's one that's now the $1 million isolation cabin does seem to be real.
Okay.
Dollars is on the line. Your mission: survive 30 days in this cabin. But this isn't just any cabin, it's the most isolated one on Earth. No phone allowed, no signal, and all around you endless mountains as far as the eye can see. Think you can handle the challenge? Inside, your
I
living
can.
space is surprisingly luxurious. A spacious living room with leather couches and a stunning view of the wilderness. Behind it, a well-equipped kitchen.
Oh, come on, bro. Give me a
Right?
break. You know, like, yeah, 30
Right?
days, 60 days, whatever,
30
bro.
days?
Like, it needs to be like, you live in this beautiful, fancy fucking mansion and then this beautiful thing.
Mhm.
And then there's also a trained killer, like a trained Navy SEAL
Right.
who's trying to kill you. You
I
survive
know,
30 days
right?
of that
Totally.
for $6
So
million.
it's like,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely right.
It's like
you
the
know?
first 25 days are clean.
Yeah.
And then those last 5 days, we hire mercenaries to totally menace you.
Yeah, absolutely. Or you get shot with a paintball or something. It doesn't have to be death, right? But it's like you get shot with a paintball, it's fucking over. It's like a Home Alone challenge. Like you have 25 days to prepare your home for an assault by zombies, and then for 5 days we're going to try and break through. We're gonna, actually that'd be kind of an amazing show. Just a zombie
Right?
apocalypse show where you get a team together, you give them a house, you give them 30 days, and they based on the properties of the house and etc. They have to come up with a plan how they're going to zombie proof the house.
Mhm.
And then I don't know, you have a group of 10, 20, 50 zombies try and break through, and they're using like paintballs and Home Alone style like traps and stuff. Oh
Mhm.
man, that would take over. And a real zombie apocalypse show, come on. Oh my gosh,
Right?
zombie apocalypse survival show. Or you could do
Right?
different, I guess you could do different like disasters or monsters or something.
Mhm, mhm.
you
You could do
know,
some shit
or-
where it's like some Bigfoot type thing, that
Right, exactly,
comes and
exactly.
menaces. Yeah.
This season, could you survive a squad of Bigfoot, whatever you call a group
Yeah,
of
yeah,
Bigfoots?
yeah.
A squad
Sasquatch
of
or whatever,
Bigfoots? Like,
yeah.
well, probably
Squad
fucking
of
not.
Squatch.
Yeah, survive
Squatch
the
squad,
squad,
yeah.
bro. Oh my god, yes. This is we need to work for whatever that I guess it's the History Channel now or something that does the
Yeah,
most
right.
outrageous, dumbest shit of all time. Like what? When did that happen? It was Discovery. I remember Discovery Channel, History Channel. Once History Channel went the ancient aliens route,
aliens.
it's okay, like something happened over there. Me and you got jobs over there.
I know.
Like, hey,
It's
Canadian
funny.
show. Like, we're not gonna study World War II anymore.
Yeah, this girl I know that was like basically a friend of a friend that I've met. I used to know her many moons ago. I think she like somehow became pretty high up at History Channel in programming or something like that, and was someone who would sign up shows. So maybe she might have had a hand in some of the ancient alien shift.
Well, I mean, it's really popular.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
In terms of like at least culturally,
Mm-hmm. But it also helped undermine the credibility from the mind of the old school orthodox, dogma thinkers.
Well, and like we were talking last time, it's interesting that you say that, because who is Ancient Aliens for adults? No, it's for the 13, 14,
Right.
15, 16, 17-year-old. Just like they targeted us with the books.
Yep.
That if any of that stuff is true, you would not want that stuff out. It's like a national security concern unless there's some type of advantage or a need or strategy to slowly release some of that information. Those shows are designed for young people. Sure, do some adults like them? Of course, yeah, duh. But that's not who it's designed for. That's not who those books that came out when
Mhm.
we were growing up. That's who it was designed
Yep.
for. Or of course, the diehard fan, no matter what age they are, it's not going to matter. The diehard
Yeah,
fan is
yeah,
going to
yeah.
read whatever
Uh-huh.
Jack's Valet book there is or something, you
Mhm,
know.
mhm.
Oh, wow, that video's good. Jeez. My goodness gracious.
What?
Oh, that looked a little too good. Yeah, so, and I mean that's happened in so many areas. And right, isn't that kind of where you would want to hit the propaganda the hardest? You'd want to get the people on your side before they're 18, right? And then you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
them
yeah.
between 18 and 30 or something. And then once you're past that, it's like, whatever, like, who cares anymore? You know what I mean? Like the change,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
always monitoring the changing of the guard. So you want to kind of
Yeah.
make sure you're roping in the next
Totally.
generation, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
of younger people,
Uh-huh.
or I guess maybe it used to be voters, but it seems like it's more about public opinion, and because they can rig the vote anyway. So it's
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
they might
yeah.
have let that go, because now it does seem to more about be the battle of public opinion, you know, if everybody's on your
Of
side.
narrative and
Exactly,
story.
the
Yeah.
laws, it's not about changing the law anymore. It's not about
Yeah, yeah,
following
yeah.
the law anymore. It's not about the free and fair elections anymore. It's kind of a you know, like I remember in my high school, every once in a while, the first big giant public high school I went to in Texas, every once in a while, it's like you'd hear a rumor to be like, yeah, the white preps and the Mexican gang are having a battle at lunch. You know,
Mhm.
you'd hear about these like group infighting wars, you know, going on.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, oh yeah, that's more kind of how humans work in our current society, our current culture.
Which is like, the greasers versus the socias, you know,
Of course,
back in like
right?
the outsiders or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, or nowadays it's, the left versus the right, in these culture wars, shenanigans.
Well, and apparently we're going to be screwed. I moved your Craner photo over. I know sometimes you're not watching the screen, so I'll just read it. By now,
Yeah,
I
tell
think
me.
they're deliberately antagonizing people. It's like they want to dig up anti-Semites and set them off against themselves. Why?
Yeah, right?
The ADL leader, Jonathan Greenblatt, says Americans who criticize Jews and Israel will be monitored by the FBI. We will monitor your social media and check your bank accounts.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know,
that
right?
the check the bank accounts is the thing.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. Well, that's why it's like that Aaron Russo, Nicholas Rockefeller thing. Like, even if that wasn't really a Rockefeller, it was like they were still clearly spilling the tea,
Mhm.
of like what was going to go down. Like the accuracy of that, is a pretty astounding, because he said that stuff to him before 9/11, because he was predicting 9/11 to happen without calling it 9/11. And Aaron
Just
Russo,
like Cooper, and Cooper was like,
yeah, totally.
What's crazy about Cooper is, I mean, it seems like some of the stuff he was talking about was, debunked by others and even some by himself, right?
Yeah, some by himself.
But good Lord, did he call Osama bin Laden months before that goddamn thing?
Yeah,
that is the most incredible call out. He could be wrong on every other damn thing he's ever said.
Yeah,
but
totally.
that is so unbelievably impressive.
Yeah,
amazing, interesting. Whoa, just that one factoid. Let go of all the other stuff, just that
all
one thing.
I know.
Holy Jesus.
Totally. I know. And then let alone then you factor in the school shooting thing I told you about.
Right. Well, and really nobody wants to touch that, right? It's William Cooper, the crazy this or that he's the alien, or that crazy book. You mean the guy who wrote the crazy book with all because did the early editions, I can't remember, I might need to look it up, but I'll just say it before I look it up. I know last time we were talking about there were some changes they made in it. Was one of the things the Elders of Zion, the Priority of Zion thing, was that in the first edition?
Protocols.
What? Protocols, right.
Protocol.
Was that the thing that they took out or that was changed because I know there's different editions, and that the old or the original editions, something got taken out or changed or
You mean
edited
from
in like the
behold-
newer ones. Like if you go buy one that's printed now, it's different. Do you know what I'm talking about? Or do I need to look it up?
I just want to. Are you talking about Behold a Pale Horse?
Yes.
You're saying in the early editions it had it, and then they removed it. Are you saying?
Yeah, that's I know there's differences, but I can't remember right now what it is that they changed. And I was thinking if you remember it. If not, I'm just
Well,
gonna
the one I have
yeah.
has that in it.
Yeah.
And in it he says this is this is where someone like Professor Zhang, I feel like, read this book, because he basically says in that, he goes, this is not written by the Jews. He's like, the Jews did not do this. This is the Illuminati made this to frame the Jews and blame the Jews.
Yes, it was. I'm looking it up. It's the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, a chapter discussed alleged conspiracy involving Illuminati, was removed due to concerns about the anti-Semitic sentiments.
Well,
The chapter originally included in the 1991 edition has been deemed too controversial and was not included in the revised edition.
I'm so glad I got the old one.
I know, isn't that awesome? It's probably
Yeah.
it's probably worth $100 or something, you know.
It might be. I mean, I'll tell you know, because he says it very explicitly. He's like, this is not the Jews. He's like, the Jews did not do this. This is the Illuminati doing this to frame the Jews. You know, and he's like, and there are Jews in the Illuminati.
Remember what you were talking about last time is that they're the scapegoat.
Exactly.
So it is real. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I remember Roland telling me many years ago, like back in Ampatron, that he had, and I'd read this later also in something else, that basically the Protocols of the Elder Zion was like a fictional account or a satirized or something like that, where it was an account where it was like a discussion between Napoleon the Third or the second, Napoleon the Second or Napoleon the Third. So it wasn't the original Napoleon. There was one of his offspring became a somewhat of a big time player later. And it was like some sort of like a discussion between Napoleon the Third and Machiavelli or some shit like that, you know, where it was like basically, how would we go about controlling society and manipulating everyone in very much in a fashion that we see all around us now, except, you know, like talking about the old school Orthodox dogma mind, you know, people like our parents, where they just, well, really is like, you know, that guy Carol Quigley would say that these people just have a German soul, meaning he said the German soul longed for a strong master. And it's like most people I know, and that, I mean, almost everyone I know, I would describe in that way. Like I would say, argue that what you and I are attempting to do, and you're one of the few people I know that's willing to humor me with this type of thinking. And I don't think it's just that you're humoring me. I think you also feel a similar way yourself, that you're not looking for a strong master. You're actually looking to question, and through questioning, like attempt to understand where we are, who we are, why we are, you know, instead of just blindly accepting the dogmas and orthodoxies that things like, you know, like something like my dad or most people I know, it's like, I'm like, these people are intelligent people, but I can't have, it's so difficult for me to have this conversation with them because there are all these old dogmas that eventually, when we have this conversation, we hit a brick wall because we run into one of their dogmas, and then their dogmas take over, and they're like, no, and they become a reactionary, and then they become like, no, that can't be true because of this, and you know, a lot of times those dogmas are based on these antiquated ideas, you know, and so something like, you know, and which is weird because it ends up being in my mind at least, a form of corroboration that a lot of the stuff is real, which now I don't really I'm not looking for that corroboration as much as like when you and I first met, when I was like actively trying to talk to more normies about it, and and get their thoughts and feedback, which was usually them being like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is crazy talk. Whereas now it's like as I've said to you before, like less and less people are thinking it's crazy talk. They might disagree about certain aspects of it, and I would argue that they are still chock full of those antiquated dogmas that prevent them from seeing things more closely as they are. And I think that you and I even have plenty of those antiquated dogmas in us. We might just have relatively less than most people we know.
Yeah.
But in time, and that's part of what I'm doing and have been doing, is going deeper and deeper into my own biases and prejudices and trying to unearth them and understand them. And I think that's kind of the roadmap to unbrainwashing yourself. And as someone myself who came from the left and more of like liberal progressive thinking, and I still, again, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because I think a lot of that has a lot of value and is important. But now I clearly see how a lot of that is a type of brainwashing that is not liberal and is not progressive, and it's not leftist. It's just it's a wolf in sheep's clothing, that I think is there, because I think the idea of being, the part of us that longs for and is drawn to the ideas of liberalism and progressivism are the part of us that want to help others. Like when you say, and I agree with that, it's like, hey, unless you're trying to help feed, clothe, and house all people, then I'm not that interested.
Yeah, no. It should be like the most obvious step one. The fact that we've avoided that, not just we, I mean, everybody, every culture, is just something, it's so, from my point of view, so profoundly like sick, or backwards, or like, yeah, I can see how if there are advanced alien cultures and they're zooming by Earth, they're like, yeah, that's a level 2 civilization,
right.
We're still waiting for them to get to level 3, and then we actually can converse with them. But as of now, if we go down there and try and just openly talk with them, there's going to be a number of different groups that are kind of trying to blow our ass up.
Yeah.
You know that. Oh man, I'm going to pull it up.
What?
There's an awesome cartoon of aliens landing and seeing Jesus.
Huh.
Yeah, this is it right here. So the aliens are out at their UFO and they're standing by Jesus, who's been crucified, and one of the aliens says, "You know what we need to do? We need to get the fuck out of here. That's what we need to do."
Yeah, I think you sent that to me.
Oh my God.
So good.
Because it doesn't matter that there's a few people that are going to be chill to you. It's that there's going to be some people with some like EMP nukes and stuff like that. And they're going to be like, "You're a demon. You don't look like, the angel from the movies that I've seen, like you're obviously a demon. Blow that guy up."
Right.
By the way, hold on. The sources, I found the sources for the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. So source material for the forgery consisted jointly of a dialogue in hell between Machiavelli and Montesquieu, an 1864 political satire by Maurice Joly, and a chapter from Biarritz, an 1868 novel by the anti-Semitic German novelist Hermann Godesch or something, which had been translated into Russian in 1872. The protocols first appear in Russia in like, what was it, 1903, something like that.
Oh, which is interesting, because 1905 is the Russo-Japanese War. Okay,
Mhm.
so this is where, I'd like to attempt to try to drill into a little bit, because the Russo-Japanese War, which is, you see, that's why it's like, again, the idea is that holding on to these old dogmas, that whatever, there's so many of them that prevent us from a greater understanding. And the Russo-Japanese War was something that happened in like 1905, I believe, where basically Japan does like a sneak attack, like very similar to Pearl Harbor, on Russia, and basically Russia got their asses handed to them, and this was uh, it's almost like, have you heard about like in dog fighting, that when you give a dog that taste of blood in dog
Yes.
fighting, from what I've heard,
Yeah.
is like now they're in, now that's like
Yeah.
like giving a heroin addict that first taste, it's like now you got, the first one's always free. Now they're hooked, that basically, because there's that guy who wrote, the guy who wrote Flags of Our Fathers, that Clint Eastwood made
Yes,
in
yes.
Iwo Jima.
Yes.
He's actually really good.
Did you see those movies, the Iwo Jima movies?
Yeah, I did.
God, I thought that was so profound, doing it from both sides. I just thought that was
Right?
brilliant. It
I
was
thought that was
absolutely
awesome.
brilliant.
Right? That was brilliant.
I wish they did that. I wish we had that for every
Right?
for every
Totally.
big battle or war or anything. Just do it
Right.
do it from both sides or all the different sides. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Oh my God, I thought it was brilliant.
Right? It was so brilliant. And that author, is it James Bradley? Is it James Bradley or William Bradley? He wrote a few other books that I read, one was called the China Mirage. And it was basically all about the fuckery of the empire, building up and backing Chiang Kai-shek against Mao, and how we funded and poured all this money. There was this thing called the China Lobby, which was this like very influential lobby group. And it's funny because it's like, again, the right wingers kind of call it the globalists. I just call it like empire. But whatever. Tomato, tomato. And basically, and there's other, and that's a fascinating book, because and in that book, amongst other things, it goes into some of the nuance of Pearl Harbor and how that was all set up, and how FDR, like in this book, he says FDR like made him like left town, made himself scarce, and then some of these insiders that were these empire or globalist people, they helped orchestrate, because they did like the embargo of the oil of Japan and cut off vital war materials. So it was basically like we forced Japan's hand, and we wanted to get into the conflict, and we used that. And in his other book, Imperial Cruise, he talks about how Teddy Roosevelt sent, I think he sent Taft, and his daughter, and Roosevelt's daughter, on this imperial cruise to Japan, where they met up with the Japanese and basically helped encourage Japan to attack Russia, or either attack Russia and or go into maybe Korea.
Yes, it is Korea. I'm reading about it right now.
Okay. I mean, it was years ago that I read this.
Yeah, because Japan was talking about Korea back in 1850s, 1860s, 1870s, thinking about the how they were going to dominate or take over Korea. You know what I mean? This is really interesting. I knew a little bit, but I'm reading more now as you're talking.
Sorry, I can you go back like 1 minute? Something happened to my phone.
Oh yeah, I was just saying I'm reading about the Russo-Japanese War,
Uh-huh.
and it's talking about pre that happening and
Mhm.
how Japan was already kind of trying to figure out how they were going to take control of Korea back in 1860s,
Mhm.
1870s, and they were trying to figure out whether they should become more advanced and then go and take Korea, or just go ahead and do it now.
Mhm.
And then kind of for the Japanese elite, they use the quote unquote backwardness of China or Korea as proof of the inferiority of those nations.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then they wanted to start, then the foreign minister in 1887, Count Inoue Kaoru, is saying we got to be like Europe, we got to take over stuff if we're gonna be like cool or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, survival of the fittest, colonies.
Yeah, and the whole like white supremacy, the empire that follows the sun, spreading westward.
And the Bushido training all of their students to have this code of the samurai. And so everybody was like clamoring for war and regarded diplomacy as weakness.
And yeah, and then we went out of the other side of our mouth, we went to Korea and we said, hey, Korea, like we got your back. We're your big brother. You can let your guard down. You don't got to worry about the Japanese invading you. Like lower your defenses. And we convinced Korea to lower its defenses. And then we went back to Japan and we're like, all right, go get them. And that was when we gave Japan its first taste of blood, imperial blood. And then to bring it back to the protocols of the Elder Zion and Russia, a big reason why Japan defeated Russia was because Jacob Schiff, who was a Jewish banker, gave major loans to Japan. And it was something.
Wait. I have to wait. Did you see the thing about the cult of the moon?
No.
The moon cult with Ian Carroll?
No.
Oh my God. It's going to connect into what you're talking about. Basically, he's saying that like, I don't want to interrupt you too much. There's just a huge thing about the money that Japan was like essentially set up as like almost like a money distribution center or system. And that long ago the government was basically bought. The government was bought a long time ago. It's like mega ridiculously corrupt. And he was linking it to this thing called the cult of the moon cult there in Japan.
Sounds familiar.
Anyway, yeah, right, exactly.
It does sound familiar, the cult of the moon. I feel like maybe he wrote about that in the book Imperial Cruise. I'm not sure, but that does sound familiar. And Jacob Schiff was from like Kuhn Loeb.
Oh, see, he's doing like a 5-part series. Like he just put out parts 3, 4, and 5 like 24 hours ago,
Okay. So moon. Okay.
How does the CIA, Japan, and a cult connect to Charlie's death? That they're saying that there's all this money coming out of this, like all of the money. He was like in the first video that I saw, I think he's like linking the funding for TPUSA to this system, this Japanese CIA system, financial system. Yeah, which also there's then that freaking ties into damn all of the insanity surrounding the GameStop story
Mhm.
because there's something called the yen carry trade. And
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
as the interest
What
rates
is the yen carry trade again? I've heard of
the
it. but I don't know
idea
what
is
it
that for a really long time you could borrow yen for very low cost
Uh-huh.
or 0% or something. You just
Mhm.
borrow it, and so you could
Almost for
do
free.
a really typical. You could do a
Hello?
what's it called? A currency
Hello?
exchange. You could take yen, borrow yen, put it into
Hello?
something else that's going to have a
You
higher
froze.
interest rate, and just make money that way. You know, just borrow a bunch of yen,
So
put it in
sorry,
something.
you froze for like 20 seconds there. You took yen carry trade. You could borrow yen for very cheap, almost zero, and then
Yeah,
go
and
from
then
there.
put it into something
Sorry.
else that makes a few percentage points or something, right? In a different currency that has a higher interest rate or whatever. And yay, and rinse and repeat and keep doing that. And that's been something that's been really common. Now, the issue is that the that's becoming untenable within the past like 3 or 4 days, actually. Like the rate for borrowing and all this kind of stuff is just shooting up to all-time highs in Japan. And so the idea is that if you have borrowed a bunch of money at a lower interest rate and you put it into something else, but now the money that you borrowed, the interest rate is going up.
It gets more expensive
Yeah,
to borrow that
at
money.
some point you're going to get margin called, or you've got to let go of your investment or something like that. And so there seems to be a bunch of a huge amount of money wrapped up in this system. And as you look at like the timeline and stuff, it's like there'll be something crazy that happens with the Japanese yen, and then the next day GameStop will run and Berkshire Hathaway will like fall to like $80 a share for like 30 seconds or something. Have you ever seen that? Was amongst all the amazing crazy things, Berkshire Hathaway all of a sudden it seems like has been collateralized with a GME position. And that when that almost it's almost blown up a few times, and when it almost blew up, Berkshire Hathaway stock, which is like hundreds of thousands of dollars, for like 30 seconds dropped down to like $80 a share or something. Like, so there's all these really crazy, I mean, out of control glitches that have occurred in this storyline. So it's just interesting, all these things kind of connecting that the Japanese as Japan almost as a money laundering operation itself, like the entire Japanese system, which probably that's what you would do everywhere, right?
That's kind of what
the banking system
everywhere? Isn't that what the banking system does to
exactly
everywhere?
Right? Is you set up a money laundering system. Sure, you can like have a savings account and write checks, but that's just like the front. It's like then you go to the back of the bank. And it's like, oh, damn, all these people running drugs, whether it's drug dealers or the government running drugs or trafficking people, like we got to wash this money somehow, That's the value of it.
Well, and that's what like Julian Assange said, that war is ultimately a giant money laundering scheme.
Yeah.
And maybe, you could say, well, that's overly simplified, and sure, in some ways it is, but it seems like that's one of the birds they kill, one of the many birds that they kill with that one stone, And it seems, my guess would be, is that much of the world that gets incorporated into this empire, whether it's a direct, like America and the UK, or if it's more indirect, like various satellites like Japan and whatnot, and Germany that become part, you destroy them, then you build them up in your own image, and you're like, hey, we do the Marshall Plan. We don't just destroy them, we help them too, and then it's like now they're gonna go and, because they wanted to, the roundtable groups, the Rhodes and Milner roundtable groups wanted to build this 3-block world where they were trying to. That's why, see, that's the weird thing. They were building up the Nazis, you know? And this is something that it's like, so people like still caught up in that old dogma, the old antiquated dogmas. They want, good versus bad, good versus evil, and America and the allies are good, and the other side is just evil, you know. But it's like when you like understand that the Nazis were actually brought to power by these American and British, banks and corporations, then it's like it gets blurrier, it's not so black and white, it's more gray, and you're like, all right, they were part of it was they wanted to go after the Soviet Union. And they, it seemed like they lost the Soviet Union compared to how they thought they were building the Soviet Union to be a rival that would justify, unlimited, increasing military budgets, and the whole escalation and the prioritizing weapons and systems. Whereas like the average person is like, why am I like, why are my tax dollars going to be spent helping, like what? Like fighting these foreign wars or going against these foreign, entanglements, where it's like, I'm a farmer. I want my money, to go towards helping farming, or I'm a this or that. I want my money to help, or there are lots of poor people that need help. Let's have the money go there, and it's like, no. And that's what it seems like socialism and communism seem to be some form of like, once you've taken over, once you've dominated or monopolized what you wanted to dominate and monopolize, now you set up the system where most of, or a greater proportion of the funds are going to go towards helping the average people or the less fortunate, and give them more or less what they need. So now they'll have less of a need to rise up and interfere or meddle. They're like, oh no, the system's taking care of us. We don't need to rise up or try to overthrow whoever's running the system. So it becomes like maybe it's like, people were the smarter, a certain class of oligarchs were like, you know what, if we don't do this, we're going to have more uprisings, and so it's probably just like a cost benefit analysis where they're like, you know what, if we create this system that takes care of some of the people that need it the most, then it's actually going to be cheaper for us than if we don't do that, because we might have to spend a lot of money trying to subdue those elements, like something like the Smedley Butler idea. It wasn't his idea, but that situation where you have all these World War I veterans who, missed out on the prosperity that happened during World War I. And now when they return, they return home, and now they're, in many cases, a shell of themselves because they've been shell shocked, the original PTSD diagnosis. And now they're like broken and traumatized, and now it's like, well, not our problem. Don't worry. Well, we promised them a bonus to be paid out, in the 40s, but now it's like the 1930s and they're suffering. And then they start forming the bonus army, for example, in the early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And then they descend upon DC to try to lobby for early payment of their bonus. But things were on a strict gold standard then. You couldn't just print money the way they do now. and so they were limited in what they could do, and they're like, shit, what are we going to do about all these? Because there were people, like I remember like Gore Vidal talking about, his uncle or grandfather or something was like a blind congressman or senator, and he talked about how as a little kid going to DC and seeing the bonus march and the legitimate fear that these politicians had, many of them, because there was all these fucking World War One veterans just all basically taking over the Capitol. And no one, you didn't really know what to do about it. And these people had this camaraderie, because they'd all been through this traumatic experience together in World War One, and here they are demanding to be paid and taken care of because they had missed out on the prosperity of World War One. They got paid peanuts to go and destroy themselves, defending democracy and freedom, quote unquote, and how do you utilize, how do you take a tough situation from the oligarch perspective of take these people who are desperate and capable of, a real threat to a potential, could end up being a real threat to the system that you dominate and monopolize, and how do you take that and convert it into something usable, and then like a paramilitary army, a 500,000 man paramilitary army, like that's what their dream was, and that's what they were trying to eventually, or at least some of them wanted Smedley Butler to lead it. Because most of the other major military figures in the country had attacked, people like General MacArthur, Eisenhower, like all the ones that became super, rock star generals of World War II, like Eisenhower, Patton, Marshall, MacArthur, all of them, they went and subdued and attacked the bonus army and the bonus marchers. Smedley Butler is one of the few ones that stuck with the bonus marchers, and gave, and camped out with them and gave speeches, to them and was very much on their side. And the rank and file, the average soldier, or veteran, like trusted Smedley Butler in a way that like the average leftist kind of, they trusted Bernie Sanders, and they were like, I'll trust Bernie Sanders, or the way like the average, the new forgotten man, which was the term for the Great Depression, for the average person, that was the forgotten man, or, that whose life got upended during the Great Depression. And now the average forgotten man, like that's what MAGA appealed to, was like, I'm going to message to those people that were in some ways the equivalent of like the bonus marchers, these people who had gone and fought in wars and, or like Occupy Wall Street did for people who, the more affluent middle to upper middle class, suburbanites who went to college, did what they were told by their parents and the system to work hard, get good grades, get into a good school, get a good education, and then you'll have a life, and a career. And they came out of college, and especially after the meltdown of 2008, they came out of college and there was little to no opportunity for them. And they're saddled with all this student loan debt, which people like Biden, made it so that you couldn't get rid of that student loan debt, So now you're going to be a debt slave, and then Occupy Wall Street spoke to those concerns, and so how do you message to the people that are the forgotten people and try to get them get them, invested in what you're selling, or trying to sell, and MAGA is clearly like that. Bernie Sanders and AOC are clearly like that. Mamdani is clearly like that. And I'm just saying it's like it's interesting because the true oligarchs of the countries, like they're actively, that is an active concern of theirs, is how to convert the disaffected, disillusioned, forgotten people and get them invested in a narrative and a story that helps support the aims of the oligarchs, through the guise of seemingly populist or policies for the people. When that the fine print is like Obamacare, like Obamacare is a good example of this. It's like, we're gonna, and the average liberal I know, they'll be like, no, Obamacare was good. It gave millions of people health care. And it's like, you don't get it. Like what happened to the stock prices of big pharma and the insurance companies when Obamacare passed? And they're like, I don't know. It's like, yeah, the prices went up because that's the fine print. How do you sell something, to the average person that helps the oligarch? It's not an easy trick, or like the protocols of the elders of Zion. You go and you spread this thing that, like, clearly there's some truth to it. Not about necessarily the Jews, but there's a truth to it that we can manipulate people. We can own the press. We can create institutions. We can create things that seem legitimate, but they're really there, like Democracy Now. How do you create this thing that now the average person, the person that has very little, that means well and wants to help, the poor, and how do we take them and get them to fight for our cause? How do we get the anti-war crowd to become not quite so anti-war when we want them to? Democracy Now. You have Fox News, you have MSNBC, you have MAGA, you have Bernie Sanders. You have all these people, whether they know it or not, are part of this thing, And what I was talking about before about the protocols of Zion, that shit came out at that time when Jacob Schiff was funding the Japanese against the Russians. So you could see how, like, in Russia, they're like, shit, there are these super wealthy Jews that are funding Japan and hurting us, and Jacob Schiff on his deathbed, allegedly said that he was happy and admitted, yes, I provided Japan with the funds to fuck with Russia and the Tsar because the Tsar, the pogroms that happened, like these organized killing, and so I'm just saying, like, there's like a causality there that it's like clear that people want it seen as black and white instead of gray, and someone like myself, especially with something like Israel, it's in a way, I'm trying to be the devil's advocate or the defender of, be like, look, don't take this out on the average Jewish person because they had nothing to do with it. Although most Jews I know are Zionists, but they got brainwashed into that shit just like I once did. We got traumatized, and all these narratives, all these things that some of it was totally legit and then some of it was not. Like, that's why, I have this quote, I should have sent it to you. I probably didn't, but it's Ben Gurion, David Ben Gurion, saying if I could have saved all of the Jews in the Holocaust by sending them to London, or instead only save half of them and send that half of them to Palestine, I would choose to only save half of them and send them to Palestine. Which is like, whoa, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I brought that quote up to my dad, and he just had this reaction that I've never seen him quite have, where he's just like, I don't want to hear it. Like, I don't want, you know, he's like, I need this black and white in my head.
Yes, absolutely right.
You know, and I don't want to hear that shit, you know, and it's like, okay, so you're admitting defeat.
Yeah,
You're admitting.
Correct.
Yeah, and the rest of us, Jews are just caught in this crossfire, you know, and someone like me or Rachel, you know, who are like in the minority at this point, you know, it's uncomfortable for us to talk about these things with most Jews, you know?
Of course.
They'll call us a traitor or self-hating Jew or some shit. And it's like, no, you don't get it. Like, and in fact, I just saw this thing earlier today where Ben Gurion in 43 or 44, he's blocked. The UK was going to save over 1,000 Orthodox rabbis from the Holocaust. Ben Gurion blocked it. He blocked it because they were going to free him and bring him to London or UK, and he like blocked it. And I really want to find out if, you know, because someone like my grandma or my dad would be like, oh, FDR, he was no friend to the Jews. He turned the boats away. You know about that, right? Right. And I'm like, I bet you money. I would like to look into. I bet money, and maybe I'm wrong, but I bet money that the Zionists were behind, or had a hand in that. You know, and be like, no. We don't want them coming to America. You know, we want them going to Palestine. If they're not going to go to Palestine, fuck them. Because most Jews were not into Zionism. And that's something that, like, they rewrote that history. You know, and be like, no, Zionism and Judaism are like one and one, you know, go hand in hand. It's like, no. It doesn't. You know, just like, you know, being a Muslim and Al-Qaeda or ISIS do not go hand in hand. You know, like one form is like is just a religion, and the other thing is like weaponizing it and using that, you know, like for other desires and empire aims, you know?
Yeah. Well, we may need to call it here, honestly. I mean, I don't know how it goes by so fast. It's just insane. We're also just getting way better at it. I've got my ADHD brain, you know, displayed here, and then I'm getting way better at looking up stuff as we're talking about it.
Awesome.
For not only my benefit, but then people watching, then they can read along. Like, I was going through a variety of different Wikipedia articles and stuff like that while we were talking. So anyway, freaking awesome. We'll hit on, I'll save all the links that we didn't get to, and we'll get to them next time.
Okay, great.
Let's I mean, I'm going to keep watching I watched the first episode, maybe the first two of the Ian Carroll Moon Cult things.
Oh, I've got to look into that now.
Yeah, it just released parts 4 and 5 in the past like 24 hours or something. So maybe by next time we can both be caught up. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Maybe send me the link to the first episode or two so I can jump in on that.
Gotcha. Okay, cool, man.
Awesome,
well, pleasure as always. I'll talk to you next time, and I'll post this later on today.
Awesome, Dogon.
Okie dokie.
Great talking to you, man.
You too, man. It was